Volcanologists are still closely watching the situation at the Taal volcano to see if more residents from nearby areas have to be evacuated. As affected residents flock to evacuation areas, they fear contracting the coronavirus. Local government units in Batangas admit that despite their contingency plans, they were caught off guard by the Taal's eruption. Tourists are now backtracking on their plans to visit Tagaytay as the Taal continues to pose a threat. But local officials assure guests that it still is safe to visit Tagaytay at the moment. Vaccine experts from the Johns Hopkins University say the vaccines that have been approved for distribution are working even against new variants of COVID. Back here in the home front, the MVP group of companies has started its own vaccination rollout. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know to jumpstart your weekend. I'm Riza Diaz. Taal volcano is now under alert level 3 after a phreomagmatic eruption took place on July 1, prompting residents near the area to evacuate and volcanic smog to spread in other areas in Luzon. Let's get more details on this. We have with us via Zoom PHIVOLCS officer in charge, Dr. Renato Solidum Jr. Doc, good morning.
Good morning.
Sir, first, how is the current situation in Taal? Can you give us an update, please? Is it showing increased or decreased activity today compared to the past few days?
Well, in terms of sulfur dioxide gas emission, the measurement yesterday was also high at 10,000 tons per day. Up to now, since yesterday, continuous steaming would be seen over the volcano. White plume would be seen drifting towards the south or southwest, and this would be reaching to an elevation of around 2 to 3 kilometers. There were 3 short phreatomagmatic bursts, meaning the duration is kind of short, and this produced a column of around 100 meters only. This happened yesterday morning between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock in the morning.
Sir, can you explain to us further, also for the sake of our viewers, what phreomagmatic eruptions are like?
Essentially, phreatomagmatic eruptions result from the interaction of magma with water. If magma is just sitting below and emitting gases, and the gases would heat up the groundwater below the crater of, below the summit of Taal and the crater, sometimes the steam would have pressure and would burst and explode. That is called phreatic eruption. The other extreme of an eruption is when magma reaches the surface and would either come out quietly, a non-explosive magmatic eruption that would form a lava, or the magma would explode, producing ashes to rocks and gases. This might rain over areas depending on where the wind would blow the ash, or in the worst case scenarios, the ashes and rocks would be brought down and collapse, and there will be a pyroclastic density current or flow of hot rocks, ashes, and gas downslope from a volcano or horizontally into a volcano. We call that base surge. So the phreatomagmatic eruption is somewhere in between, where magma and steam and water would interact and would cause the explosion. And that is equally dangerous because it can also produce horizontally moving cloud of ashes and rocks and gases. We call that base surge again. And in fact, in past eruptions of Taal, like in the 1911 eruption, these base surges have killed more than 1,000 people. So we really have to be prepared for this kind of activity, although compared to January 2020 eruption, what happened the other day was much smaller.
So Renato, based on the activity of Taal so far and its previous, according to history, do we have an idea? Can we actually tell until when the unrest will last?
Well, the unrest can be prolonged if there will still be the slow movement of magma towards the crater. And so what needs to happen is people who are very close to the Taal Volcano Island need to be protected from sudden explosions that can cause the production of base surges. And that is why we recommended people, those within 7 kilometers on the southwest side of the volcano. We also need to make sure that local governments and residents are ready in case the activity escalates and additional areas will be further recommended for evacuation. Evacuation areas need to be ready and must maintain the minimum standards, at least, for COVID-19 mitigation, because we also need to avoid people being afflicted with COVID-19 while in this evacuation area.
Very true. Sir Renato, you mentioned things can escalate to a whole new level. Are we seeing that scenario? Are we expecting a stronger eruption?
Well, stronger eruption is always relative, depending on what your idea of a stronger eruption is. But definitely, right now, the situation is that the magma beneath Taal volcano is degassed because of the large amounts of gases already emitted since February. And the explosivity of a volcanic eruption is so much dependent on the gas content of the magma. So right now, we don't see a very explosive eruption as last year. But again, as I mentioned earlier, we need to monitor if new magma from way below carrying more gas or magma rich with gases would go up, beneath the crater of Taal. So we have to monitor. So we have a magma at the shallow level, and if there will be a resupply of new magma, then that can propel larger explosions. It is also possible that the activity of Taal can be smaller, as it is degassed right now and would produce lava fountaining and lava flow. So we have to really monitor what happens in the next several days and weeks if this activity will still continue. As of now, it is not abating because of the continued emission of sulfur dioxide gas, and compared to the previous week, a higher number of volcanic earthquakes are occurring since the other day.
Sir Solidum, as to the volcanic smog, how long is it expected to last in the metro, and are we expecting it to get worse?
There is no volcanic smog in Metro Manila. The smog that we see in Metro Manila is due to pollution. However, if you talk about possible dispersion of sulfur dioxide gas over Metro Manila, it is dependent on the height of a steam column or the eruption column, and if the wind is blowing it to Manila. However, that is not dangerous because if ever, at more than a kilometer high, the sulfur dioxide will not really be affecting people because it's up there. You cannot breathe sulfur dioxide gas. So the smog or the volcanic smog is a fog of volcanic gases with moisture. So it will be within Taal Volcano Island and the vicinity of Taal Lake. And so if ever there will be dispersion of sulfur dioxide gases in other provinces, this will be at a much higher elevation, not at the ground level.
Okay, well, thank you, sir, for that clarification, and thank you for the time that you spent with us. That's Dr. Renato Solidum Jr., PHIVOLCS OIC. This time, to give us the latest on the evacuation efforts in Taal, joining us on the line is Joselito Castro. He is Chief of the Batangas Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office. Sir Castro, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning po.
Sir, how have the evacuation efforts been? Meron po ba tayong latest number as to the number of evacuees?
We have available data as of yesterday night. So meron tayong 1,807 individuals, and that is for, equivalent to 464 families po iyon. Mga outside evacuation center, ito po ang ginagather namin kasi we have to locate the area kung saan po nagpunta mga kamag-anak yung mga evacuees po ng Laurel and Agoncillo.
Sir Castro, ano pong sitwasyon sa evacuation centers natin ngayon? Puno na po ba? Dikit-dikit? Sana nga po na-observe pa rin po ba yung mga health protocols?
Actually, ma'am, since 5 barangay pa lang ito, ay ang mga bayan na sadyang doon sila naka-assign, maluwag po ang mga evacuation centers sa mga host na mga bayan sa Batangas. Ang nangyari kasing evacuation muna ay within their AOR pa rin ng mga bayang nabanggit ng Laurel at Agoncillo. I-contain muna nila yon kasi inilayo nila sa shoreline. So, naka-ready po ang mga host municipalities sa lalawigan ng Batangas just in case magkaroon ng escalation dito pong Taal Volcano.
Sir, are we ready or are we looking into the possibility po na yung mga nearby towns and municipalities can also accommodate yung mga evacuees natin?
Yes, that is in accordance with the plan. Lahat po ng munisipyo na hindi affected, yan po ay naka-ready for evacuation.
Sir, kamustahin po natin, may mga residents daw po na ayaw pong iwanan ng kanilang mga bahay, ang kanilang mga tahanan. Ano pong ginagawa natin to address this issue?
Yan ang ini-address po natin ngayon. So sa direktiba po ng national, so ang PNP po ay katulong natin para ma-maximize po natin yung pagpapa-evacuate ng mga natitira pa.
Okay. Finally, sir, again, you mentioned yung mga evacuees po natin, na-observe naman po yung health protocols at maluwag pa po ang evacuation center. Pero ano po ang inyong paalala sa kanila, lalong-lalo na po sa mga nanonood po sa atin?
Sundin po ang mga protocols na pinututupad sa mga evacuation centers. Actually, before na dalhin po sila sa evacuation, may triage area po. Coordinate naman po ang ating mga rural health units sa ating provincial health, maging sa DOH, na kung saan po ang mga kababayan natin na may symptom ay ma-isolate agad at kung sakasakali na matest sila na positive ay nakalaan naman po ang region to assist para ma-transfer agad sa mga temporary treatment facility and isolation facility. And in addition po, itong vaccine na na-receive po ng province kahapon sa NCR, ito po ay ipagkakalob po sa ating mga evacuees.
Alright, maraming salamat po. That's Mr. Lito Castro, Chief of the Batangas PDRRMO. Now, local officials assure the public it is still safe in Tagaytay. This as tourists are hesitant to visit the city after the Taal volcano was placed under alert level 3. This report by Shaila Francisco.
Only a few tourists arrive at the Taal Vista Hotel in Tagaytay during its check-in hours on Friday. After alert level 3 was raised over in Taal Volcano, close to 100 tourists already canceled their bookings starting Thursday until Tuesday next week.
The guests are afraid to come to Tagaytay pag nung lumabas yung alert level 3. Even though ang Tagaytay are not affected with that level 3, but yung malabas kasi sa iba sa social media. So that's really concerning on our business. We're trying to convince guests, although may mga cancellation, may mga nag-book pa rin naman.
Other tourist destinations were also affected. Here in Picnic Grove, around 100 tourists visit every Friday. But because of the alert level 3 in Taal Volcano, along with the heavy rains, barely any tourists are arriving here. Restaurants in Tagaytay were also affected by Taal's unrest. Businesses fear this will continue in the coming weeks.
Marami kasing umaasa na empleyado ko, lalo pamilyado. So once kasi na mag-extend pa to, medyo nadala na sila before Kasi yung nangyari nga sa kanila, nasara din yung business namin, temporary. So nawalan sila ng trabaho, hindi nila alam kasi yung gagawin nila that time.
Some tourists, however, still push through with their trip to Tagaytay. Some chose to stay for a short period of time, while others just passed by.
Curious din tayo pero kailangan din natin pribadong pag-iingat talaga. Siyempre meron din naman, natatakot din naman tayo kaya minomonitor natin maigi para kung halimbawa may eruption, makakalis din tayo kagad.
Para makita lang magandang view kasi taga Manila kami. Para...
Hindi po kayo natakot?
Hindi naman po. Kasi siguro po kung ganun, hindi na sila nagpapasok.
The local government of Tagaytay assured the public it is still safe to visit the city.
Hindi namin dinidiscourage yung ating mga turista. Pwede pa rin ho silang pumasyal. Maganda yung klima ho dito. Sariwa pa rin yung hangin kasi nga hindi naman dito papunta yung direction ng hangin na lang gagaling sa Taal.
However, the tourism department discouraged non-essential travel in the towns of Agoncillo and Laurel in Batangas until PHIVOLCS declares it safe to visit these areas. Shaila Francisco, VR1 News.
In other news, the group of companies under Manny V. Pangilinan has begun its vaccine rollout. Several other vaccination hubs are set to begin next week. Mobile journalist Pam Vasquez with a report.
With the slogan, "We got your vac," the MVP group has kicked off its vaccination drive for 60,000 employees. The first tranche of the company procured Moderna vaccines were administered to around 600 workers at the Meralco compound in Pasig.
We have a vaccination site that has the capacity to vaccinate 1,000 persons per day, which is, I believe, the largest amongst the MVP vaccination centers.
The company prioritized workers on the front lines, like Nilo Cortez, who has been with Meralco for almost 3 decades.
I'm glad na napupunaan ako. Very grateful and very proud.
Most of the group's businesses, in fact, fall under essential services, from electricity and telco to tollways and media. Other vaccine hubs that will be activated next week include PLDT Santa Ana in Manila, Smart Tower in Makati, Maynilad Balara in Quezon City, and NLEX Santa Rita in Bulacan. Each pilot site is expected to complete 700 to more than 1,300 jobs per day. Chair Manny Pangilinan says vaccinating staff doing essential work will be key to helping the country emerge from the crisis.
This vaccination effort is extremely important to get us back to, a big step closer to the normalcy that we all desire.
Apart from Moderna, the group has also procured AstraZeneca for more than 300,000 staff, their dependents, as well as other household members. Pangilinan has also said before that the group would be interested in investing in local vaccine production facilities. I'm Pamela Vasquez, and we are One News.
And that is how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later again at 10 in the morning as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.